Good morning and welcome to today's webinar on the growth areas of flexible electronics and other highlights from 2016 Flex. I'm Heidi Hoffman, Senior Director at FlexTech, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Our agenda today is fairly simple. I will start with a quick overview of 2016 Flex, of which we organized about 3 weeks ago in Monterey. I'll highlight, give some of the highlights and break down our attendees that came to the event. Following that, Tony Sun with Lux Research will present his thoughts and analysis of how the flexible and printed electronics industry will grow, how he sees it developing and how the organization sees it developing. Then, if we have enough time left, we'll take some questions from you, the audience. We'll be using the questions panel that popped up when you linked to the webinar. You can submit questions at any time, and actually the earlier the better, as we will take them roughly in the order they come in. We'll make these slides and Tony's slides available after the webinar, as well as a recording of the presentation. Look for a link in your email as soon as they're ready. So this wouldn't be a FlexTech webinar without a quick commercial and opportunity to show off our mission statement. Our work revolves around being an advocate for flexible hybrid electronics and the industries that are impacted. We champion R&D funding around the world for research and development in flexible hybrid electronics. In the U.S., we run several government-sponsored R&D funding programs that rely heavily on industry input for determining which high-risk manufacturing-centric proposals to fund. The most high visibility part of our mission is connecting and educating our members and others in the industry. We do this through conferences, workshops, webinars like this, and anywhere else we see a need. It's a great segue into how we see events building the community. Our entire mission has recently aligned with our strategic association partner, SEMI. Through their international footprint, we shall be rolling out Flex programs in many key markets around the world. In 2016 alone, we will extend the Flex conference brand into Korea and Europe, where SEMI already has programs focused on printed electronics, but will now focus on the higher-end transition segments in the hybrid space, which ties in nicely, of course, with SEMI's traditional focus on IC, MEMS, design, and manufacturing in that area. Add to that several upcoming workshops. In April, we'll be hosting a Smart Materials workshop on April 13th, and then the next day, the Future of E-Writing. These are both will be in Kent, Ohio, and registration is open. In May, the second Blood, Sweat, and Tears workshop will focus on our NBMC program and focus on biometrics and manufacturing of the biomedical products being developed under the NBMC contracts. That will also be in Ohio, but down south in Dayton this time. We will have 2 FHE forums and a member reception at SEMICON West. July 12th will be the FHE processing and packaging. July 13th will focus on NBMC, will focus on next generation FHE monitoring devices. Again, leveraging the work of NBMC to build awareness among that audience and to show the connection to the world of IoT, which has become a focus of SEMICONs around the world. And that's just the first half of the year. Stay tuned for our schedule for the second half of the year. Without further ado, here's some of the highlights of 2016 Flex according to the post-conference attendee survey. And if you completed one, I'd like to thank you and assure you that we pay a lot of attention to your comments. The top 4 mentions that we are, the top 3 comments are up here on the slide. Our attendees came back with feedback that said they loved the diversity of the presentations, good topics, relevant context, that were all in one place, and that there was a well-balanced combination of technical and business talks. We're glad to see that we achieved that goal of putting on an event that met our objectives, because those pretty much reflect them, showcasing the breadth and the depth of our industry. We'd like to thank all of our 120 speakers for their contributions and recognize their important contributions to the program. In the market and technical session side, we had several, when we asked what were the highlights of your visit to the conference, there were several call-outs for certain presentations, to Neil Morrison for one, the Park, the SRI, the Stanford presentations, and flexible OLEDs were mentioned many times. In particular, it seems to have had a resurgence of interest after we saw a slight wane several years ago. But there were also attendees who appreciated the coverage of wearables, and who doesn't want to hear about wearables, and the market breakdowns for those products. Of course, we had 45 exhibitors in the conference hall and meeting rooms. Some of the highlights we received were that the vendors were able to help attendees design products using FHE during their conversations there, and that the hall provided insights into what direction to take their research. We saw a lot of good interactions at the tabletops, at the booths, and again, we want to thank everyone for attending. We had 659 total registered attendees from 24 different countries. 15% of the total attendees were from outside the United States. Here you see the breakdown showing that 46% of our attendees come from corporations or for-profit entities. 16% of those attendees come from academia, and you can see the rest of the breakdown on the slide. The student poster session was very popular. It featured 15 posters from 9 different institutions. The first place was awarded to a team as a team prize to the team from Princeton University. Second place went to Francisco Suarez from North Carolina State University. And third place was won by Tala Khan from Georgia Tech. Here's some pictures from the award ceremony and the poster session. Another comment we particularly appreciate here at FlexTech is the highlight of their event was that they knew they were supporting an organization that gives back to the industry, and we believe we try to do that not only through our R&D funding program, but also through the Flexi Awards, which showcase the companies and individuals making contributions to the industry. This year we added a new category of industry leadership, and we're pleased that Dan Gamota with Jabil Electronics was nominated and chosen for that honor. Northeastern University's Center for High-Rate Nanomanufacturing received the award for leadership in education. Sensor Films was recognized for their innovative Starlight digital manufacturing platform with the Innovation Prize. Likewise, Blue Spark was awarded the Innovation Prize for the TempTrack sensor for monitoring body temperatures wirelessly. And the team from UMass Lowell won the Flexi for outstanding R&D. We asked the attendees to self-assign, to choose the role that they play in the industry, and found that they represented a broad cross-section of roles. We see that as really a reflection of the maturity level of FHE, the largest category at 18% being in the executive space, 14% coming in the business development and researchers and scientists area, and then you see a significant portion of folks in the application engineering, product manager, manufacturing and process engineer, materials engineers. We really get a very balanced group at the event. There were plenty of networking opportunities. Really important to growing this industry is giving people a chance to relate to each other in an informal basis. It was easily noted as one of the highlights of the event across the surveys, and set the tone for good interaction both within the sessions, on the show floor, and during the more serious moments of the event. Hope everyone had a good time. So that's just a quick run through of the highlights from 2016 Flex. Now I'd like to turn to our featured presentation from Tony Sun of Lux Research. Tony has offered to share with us Lux's observation on the markets, particularly from interviews and meetings at Flex, 2016 Flex. He's been with Lux Research for 1.5 years after previously holding positions at Boston College and the Texas Center for Superconductivity at the University of Houston. Tony did his formal studies at Boston College and Peking University. I heard many comments after his presentation during the conference on his presentation was on how to avoid becoming the next Blackberry device. A lot of comments were said that it was very rich in observations on what to expect from products and consumers in the new electronics markets. And obviously that relates very much to FHE. But before I turn it over to Tony, let me repeat that we're welcoming comments in the question control panel. We hope to have time at the end of the session to take a few. We will also be making both presentations and a recording available to you for download, and so watch your inbox for a link. Tony, at this point, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Heidi, for the introduction. And in the meantime, I'd like to thank you very much for the opportunity to share what we've learned at Lux. And let me just quick through this. Can you see the slides?
They look great.
Great. Thanks a lot. And thank you very much for everyone having this time to attend this webinar. And I'm Tony Sun from Lux. And I'm really excited to share what we've observed from the event as well as our knowledge about the industry. So before we jump into the agenda, I'd like to spend a minute on what we are and what we do over here at Lux. Lux Research, we are a market research and consulting firm on emerging technologies. So at Lux, we provide strategic advice and ongoing intelligence to multinational corporates. So at this very moment, we have more than 22 different coverage areas, and we help our clients to find new business opportunities within the space. So we have a global presence with a headquarters in Boston, and right now we are working with more than 300 clients situated in 75 different countries. So at Lux, as I mentioned, we cover emerging technologies. And the way we cover that is really by address the key global megatrends in information means matter, energy infrastructure, as well as health and wellness. So that's the understanding of the megatrends enabled us to have a better understanding just out of the every individual space, but really what our clients should do when the megatrends hit their business. So with that, for the presentation today, I'd like to first go through what I've seen, what I've observed, and what was thought about the 2016 Flex event, and then move from there to see, to hear some successful stories to see how people achieve the growth from the area. And finally, specifically for flexible electronics, how can we grow together? Just as Heidi mentioned previously, it was really unbelievable that we're already 3 weeks away from the event. I was there, and while I was there, I walk around, talk to people. I have my own little survey to the people I talk to. The first question I ask is always about the technology. Why did you come over here? What technology you come here to scout for? There's a wide range of technologies, but what's popping out is flexible displays, smart textiles, and flex batteries. And also, I always have a follow-up question for that. What do you want to know about that technology? And what most people answered is, what is the killer app? This is what I heard at the event. And while I'm back and discuss what I've heard at the event internally with our people at Lux, our chief research officer mentioned that he was at the FlexTech event in 2008, and he had very similar conversations with that. Technologies, people are excited about flexible displays, smart textiles, and flex battery. And at that time, people are also looking for the killer app. So now this drives me to think about the killer app. Hey, why do people always ask questions about killer app? 8 years has passed, but the thinking and the excitement didn't change. So by looking at this question, what is the killer app? I think there are 2 indications. The first, over the past 8 years, the killer app didn't happen. And second is, people are still thinking about the same question and want to know where to find that. So for all the people attending this webinar, let's face it, there hasn't been a killer app. In 2008, people were talking about, hey, the flexible electronics going to emerge from the R&D space, and the printed electronics going to replicate the success of semiconductors. We will achieve a market exponential. The whole market is going to grow exponentially. At that time, people were forecasting that this year, 2016, we will have a market of 30 billion. And we will see similar things even today. There hasn't been a killer app. And the truth is, there won't be a killer app. In the past 8 years, flexible electronics really disappoints people. Not because the technology sucks, but really because the killer app didn't happen. And people are really want to know what is a killer app. It's the thinking behind that drives the industry. Killer app is not here to save the industry. So I also, during my PhD, I did my research on stretchable, stretchable transparent conductors. I also care about flexible electronics, but how to turn the technology into market and how to help everyone to benefit with this industry. We need to change this. We don't want to have the same conversations again in the next year of FlexTech event or the year after that. So let's think about and look beyond the technology itself to see what are the pieces that people have done right to grow their own business. First, let's take a look at the smartphones. Smartphones are the most iconic product in the past decade. It is really a killer app. And as the market grows, there are new technology popping out, and new form factors like smart glasses, they look to replace smartphones. But unfortunately, in the consumer space, they had a grand failure. Why? Because Google Glass is really a very weak product. They developed the kit was shipped out in 2013, and they were still using the cameras when iPhone 4 was using in 2010, 5 megapixel. So even for taking pictures, it's not good enough. But it doesn't mean Google Glass didn't find a place. While Google was shipping out their development kits, the companies in logistics, they are using the smart glass to help them to identify where the product is. Automotive manufacturing industries are using the smart glass to shoot videos, clips, and use the video clips for quality control. And there are also developers like HP. They are using the smart glass for a remote customer service, connecting the on-site engineer with a remote expert. We did a survey about all the use cases and figured out that there are only 11 exact use cases. And on top of that, smart glass only do 3 things: access the information, documentation, and you take advantage of the heads-up display and the hands-free control for real-time communication. Google Glass failed, but it actually seeded the emergence of smart glasses elsewhere, especially in enterprise. As you can see, when we compare Google Glass with a group of other smart glass developers, based on their input capabilities as well as the output capabilities, smart glass is really sitting on the border between the minimum needs. But now we have more options than the past. So what did we learn? Smart glass, is that good enough? Definitely not. It's definitely not the perfect technology. But what people need is not a perfect technology. It's good enough technology. Good enough technology will work. Now, how about fitness? Fitbit is another successful product in the past decade. And one of the people nowadays talking about is Fitbit has a very poor capability to monitor the activities accurately. So this is why corporate developers like Samsung and Nike, they come up with these ideas of smart shoes and smart insoles. Not just corporate. There are also a lot of activities coming from startups. The field have recently attracted a lot of attention. While most of the companies in this chart targeting fitness tracking and for sports improvement, there are several developers were able to differentiate from the group by targeting very unique cases. For example, Opix and Work with Path. So what Opix was doing is using very similar technology, activity trackers, pressure sensors in the insoles. They were able to identify they were able to notify the workers what's happening on the ground and use that to augment the sensory loss due to diseases like diabetic patients. While other developers are still talking about how to use the smart shoes, smart insoles to improve sports performance, Opix were able to spend their time targeting this use case and acquired FDA approval, Health Canada certification, and CE mark in Europe. And while other people are struggling about their first product, Opix is already on their way to start to generate revenue. What do we learn? It's really difficult to find a kill app. Kill app is not going to happen. For emerging technologies, you really need to start with high-value nascent use cases, just like Opix did. That's the second piece. And then we have thin-film battery companies. Thin-film batteries really stand out because they have very unique form factors. But the overall space is really immature. We selected several companies in the space: BlueSpark, Imprint Energy, Cybet, InfoCell, and SolidCore. And what we found is their revenue and employee numbers are really, their revenues are barely, it's just around 2 million. And their employee numbers are, on average, is just like 20 people. And with that, all these companies are very possible to die at any moment as we speak. The overall space is just immature. But it doesn't mean thin-film battery companies won't succeed. At Lux, we keep a track of the performance of these companies by having regular conversations with them. And what we figure out is these companies grow, and some of them grow significantly. And when we take a deeper look at the profile, what they did right, what we found is it's not the technology, it's the business model. Flexo, they provide a battery customized service for corporations. And Imprint Energy, they generate their revenue by providing service to the military sectors. And they were able to grow significantly by doing that. Flexo is a good example of that. In 2012, when we had the conversations with them, they were just selling their batteries to their potential customers. And at that time, they barely generate any meaningful revenues. But in 2013, they recognized the problem, shift their business model from selling products to provide customized service to the battery companies. And as a result, what they did is they significantly grew from revenue of below $1 million to about 10 million. And at the same time, their cash on hand, their employee numbers grows as well. So what did we learn? For emerging technologies, because the initial market is going to be very small, selling product and licensing technology won't generate any meaningful revenue for you. That won't work out. What makes sense is you need to think about your business. The business model, especially providing service, that's going to be where you start with. So that's what we learned from taking a look at the successful stories. So now, how to get the missing piece in place? Think about this. We need the 3 pieces: good enough technology, high-value nascent use case, and a service business model. If you have all 3, congratulations, you're good to go. You're very much likely to become a successful company. But for most of us, we're not that lucky. We have our problem. We have 1 or probably 2. So now, when we take a look back at the questions we had, it's not really a technology problem or a market problem. It's the partner problem. In order to become a successful company, you need to find what is the missing piece and get the right partner to help you to get that missing piece ready. So this is how, at Lux, we think about that. And we have developed a mature methodology to achieve that. At Lux, we have regular conversations with the company in the space, and we not just take a look at their technology or market, we also take a look at their strategies. So we have the way to identify who has a good enough technology, who has a high-value nascent use case, and innovative service business model. Let's do some case studies together. A lot of the flexible electronic companies are in this sector. These people have good enough technologies and also high-value nascent use case, just like Allendee. Allendee develops capacitive touch sensors. It's not a transparent one, but its unique thing is it can work with glove or wet hands and has environmental resistance to water, to electronic magnetic interference. Their product has already been adopted by industrial control panels, RV trailer panels. But the way they address the market is really by just licensing their technology. This is the situation a lot of the flexible electronics people are talking about. We have technology, we have some use cases, but the revenue didn't grow. Why? Because you have the wrong business model. Licensing technology is not going to help you a lot. What these people need to do, just like Allendee, is they need to talk to their customer, try to form joint ventures, try to find opportunities to engage more with them, develop the products together with them, and then take advantage of that to find new growth opportunities. That's the way where companies like Allendee should do. And for some other companies, they have a good enough technology, and they do provide services. However, they have a misguided use case, like PST sensors. PST sensors developed printed temperature sensors. Their capability is really to enable large area and wide temperature range, although the sensitivity is not and the accuracy is not as good as the conventional ones. They provide product development services to a whole bunch of different companies, but their primary use case is for cold chain temperature loggers. That's not good. I agree that cold chain temperature logger is a very unique use case, but people have been talking about this for years, and it's still not on the market now. For a startup already on the market for 60 years, and if the product is not on the market, they should think about what's happening. And also, when it really take a look at if we really take a look at their revenue, most of their revenue is generated by providing development services to industry equipment developers. So their technology, the value is really on the large area. It's not for cold chain temperature loggers. So companies like this should really think about where they can find the new use cases. Your value is in large area, so you should approach more to find where your value makes sense. And also, let's take a look what the successful company look like if you have all three pieces. Catapult Sports, they developed a platform specifically for sports team performance improvement. Their technology comes in two parts. The hardware is based on conventional activity tracking as well as position tracking. This software is optimized for team analytics by tracking where each player is on the field, and then correspond that to performance, and try to make recommendations to the coaches. Similar technologies, we have been seeing that everywhere, going from industries to sports to even medical space. And what they're capable is really to put their technology use case together with their very innovative business model. At this very moment, they provide device and data service to the sports team. And also they think about, hey, by having this whole platform, we have the capability of, we have the access to the data. So how to take the advantage of the data? So they target selling the real-time athletic performance data to the media clients, so that the media clients can use those data in live sports broadcast. They have a good enough technology, where a high-value nascent use case, and combine that with a unique and innovative service business model. That drives the growth of Catapult Sports. So now we went through several case studies together. What did we learn? In order to success, you need three pieces: good enough technology, a high-value nascent use case, as well as a service as a business model. And beyond that, if you can have any innovation in any of these, you're great to go. But if you do not have all of them, don't worry. Partnership is something you should look for. Killer app will not help the industry of flexible electronics, but partners will. So for everyone attending this webinar, I've also got a question for you. What is the missing piece in your company, and how do you plan to grow? With that, I'd like to conclude the presentation, and thank you very much for your attention. Great, Heidi, I'm done, and I'm passing the control back to you. Heidi?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
excellent. Okay, great. Sorry about that. It was a hidden mute button. Okay, Tony, thank you for your presentation. You have provided a lot of food for thought on strategies for growing our technology businesses. Looking forward to not hearing about the killer app somehow implying that our industry is failing. Obviously, there are many different ways to succeed, and you've laid out some great ones. Maybe your next presentation can be on how to ride the back of the hype cycle wave. But in the meantime, while you consider that, we did get a couple of questions in the questions panel, and please, if anyone else has any, please enter them there. So the first one, what do you think of the opportunities for flexible electronics and wearable devices?
Oh, thanks for that. I think a lot of our clients also have the same questions. So basically, with wearable electronics emerges, how can we find the opportunities for Flex? So I think there are a couple of dimensions we can look at that. So the first is, when people talk about when people talk about wearable electronics, it's actually a very fragmented space. So there's not a single, we couldn't identify any single piece that is missing everywhere. But because of the fragments, there are bits and keys opportunities for flexible electronics. So for example, when we think about different form factors, smart textiles is one of the major form factors people are talking about. And what people are using smart textiles nowadays, we really see that the medical space and athletic space are having a lot of attractions. So what people are doing in that space is really to take advantage of the new form factor and try to find new flexible sensors into that. So that's an opportunity. So it really depends on where specific form factors, but I do see there's a big overlap and opportunities for the flexible electronics industry.
Okay, thank you. So you highlighted the importance of the business model, but other than providing development services for a chemical and materials company, what else can a company in this space do?
Great, and I think this is relevant to the innovation of business models. So think about what you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. So for flexible electronics, we see a huge opportunity in the Internet of Things. The emergence of IoT creates a lot of opportunities. But specifically, there's a connection between the chemical and material companies with the data. So basically, how to take advantage of data is really where the innovation of business model comes about. So we recently talked with a company called Provision. So Provision is developing a 3D display, and they use the technology in coupon kiosk. So this is like a typical way that people are talking about, like, hey, I provide a specific films for display, and I develop something for very unique use case. But what the company is innovating is their business model is really not selling their device or their component or the whole kiosk, but really tie their revenue directly to the coupon people redeemed from the kiosk. So basically, instead of selling their product or licensing their technology, they are following a display as a service business model. So instead of competing with 2D displays in resolutions, in colors, in refresh rate, they have a unique way to gauge their performance by having the data to support their claim. So this is a very unique thing, and I think a lot of the other developers in the flexible electronics space, especially for the chemical and material developers, can think about.
Thank you. Okay. There's another question here. What do you think, well, with the size of the flexible OLED space being, 50 million units, $4 billion in 2015, likely doubling in 2016, aren't flexible foldable displays the killer app for this market?
I think that's a good question. So first, when people think about flexible OLED, so it really determines how do you define a flexible OLED. So for example, if you talk to the manufacturers, when people are talking about flexible OLED displays, it's really OLEDs manufactured on plastic substrate, and that plastic substrate is not used in a flexible display, but really a curved, rigid display. And that's very different. That's very much different when we talk about a flexible or foldable phone with a curved or rigid phone. So that's different. And also think about the other side. The way people manufacture the flexible OLED is not by printing. It's really by high vacuum deposition. So we do see that there's a lot of companies working on printed OLEDs, but it's not available. The technology is not mature enough for mass production. So with that, I think it really depends on who you talk to. So if you talk to material developers, yes, definitely. With the OLEDs replacing LCDs in smartphones, there's a lot of opportunities for the developers in the space. But at the same time, there is also, we see that for the manufacturing process as well as the end device level, there's still a lot of things to do.
So you don't consider the flexible OLED in the market space that you're addressing in the webinar today. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I know that some market research companies do include that in their flexible, forecasts and numbers, size of the market, which leads to the next question. Does Lux have any market size data and maybe that segmentation that you're talking about, what you include when you talk in terms of flexible electronics and printed electronics and which markets you don't include?
That's great. So there are a couple of ways of looking at that. So I think for the industry, the most widely accepted convention is really the printed, flexible, and organic electronics. That's like the typical way. And specifically, the reason why we take out the display sector or the OLED sector is really the dominating one, and it deserves a specific way of looking at that. So actually at Lux, we also have our own forecast for the OLED in the next 5 years. So based on our understanding, so the OLED market, at this very moment is going to grow from about 15 billion, will grow from about 6 billion to 15 billion in the next 5 years. I can go back and check the figures if I'm wrong, but the truth is most of these OLEDs are on glass substrate. So for the OLEDs made on flexible substrate, we are projecting that's going to happen in the next few years, and the growth rate will be a little bit higher, but it will be in line with the overall OLED adoption rate.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Although with the flexible glass substrates, there's going to have to be two different categories of glass, right? The flexible glass and the, yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Let's see. One quick question here. Somebody asked what you think is the killer application, but I think you kind of covered that maybe there is none, or maybe shouldn't wait for it because maybe
Exactly.
That's something that you see in hindsight. Oh, that was the killer app. It's not necessarily something you see with foresight.
Yeah, and also I'd also like to kind of address a little bit further about the killer app comment I made. So when people talking about killer app, they really refer to one specific category product that can drive the whole industry significantly. So one of the use cases examples people are talking about is, hey, smartphone as to multi-touch. But what people have missed is the multi-touch technology is not a new technology. It has been around since I believe, 1998. So between the year of 1998 and the year of 2005, multi-touch was used in a very specific type of keyboard only. And at that time, Apple was able to identify this case, identify the technology, and started to use that in their iPhone product. So what people are looking at is really, hey, smartphone is a killer app for multi-touch. The market grow, but they forgot that before the taking off, there's a long period of development and maturity of the technology. So I totally agree that in the future there will be some product that significantly grow the market in the future, but at this very moment, I think it's still too early to talk about that. People need to stick to the nascent use cases with a high value and try to survive until that application arrives.
Excellent comment to wrap it up here. I think that's all the questions for today. I want to thank everyone for participating in the webinar or joining us in the webinar today, and for those of you with questions and comments, we appreciate those. Especially thank everyone who attended 2016 Flex, and Tony for a great presentation. And with that, we'll sign off. Thank you very much, and watch for the link in your email.